Okay, so with our next cruising adventure fast approaching, I wanted to get current on our Q&A questions. So first off, I've got a few things here. Just want to be sure that I'm covering the bases here. Number one, probably the biggest thing I want to just get clear on is that our house has indeed sold. When I'm going through these questions, I'm going to eliminate the ones that are duplicates. You know, we've got several of them in there that have been asked a few times, so I'm just going to answer them once and then just kind of skip down. And then also, since this video is probably going to be on the long side, look in the description of the video for kind of a legend. There's basically going to be a list of links where if you want to, you can just kind of skip through and listen to the questions that you are most interested in. Okay. In selling your house, you're considering reinvesting those funds like Mr. Money Mustache in a good growth stock fund like Vanguard or something like that. No, basically the money is just sitting in a savings account right now. It'd be good to do something with it, but we haven't really figured out what. I don't know who Mr. Money Mustache is, but he seems both financially savvy and also style conscious. So I'll look into that. Thank you. In all of your on the boat videos, you shaved your head, but in a recent one you had a lot more hair. What brought on the new drastic hairstyle? Well, yeah, as you can see, I do currently have a lot of hair, and there's no real particular reason. I guess it kind of turned into a little bit of a game. I just wanted to just like not cut it until we moved back on the boat, but you know, specifically when we're on the boat, I like low maintenance, and it doesn't get much more low maintenance hairstyle than, you know, no hair. So that's why I shave it. Thanks for asking. Tamby, what is the most hilarious thing Molly has ever said? I understand the blankness. I wouldn't be able to answer that one either.
I don't know. She says a really weird, funny things sometimes, and I just...
Okay, let's see. Hey guys, I'm a huge fan of the Bahamas. Would you believe I was born and raised here for years? And I'm ashamed to say that you have seen more attractions and islands than I have. You know, we've talked to a lot of Bahamians. That's not uncommon at all. It's kind of like in America, though. I mean, I've been in like maybe 5 different states. I mean, I've seen very little of our country. So, yeah, I can believe it. Let's see. Wondering when you're going to visit the capital of New Providence. We haven't visited New Providence on our own boat, but we have been there probably at least 2 times on cruise ships, so we have been there before. Why do sailors use the ICW rather than sailing the Atlantic? I could very easily answer that question with one word, and that word is because. But I don't know, there's lots of different reasons, and it really comes down to just a variety of factors. You know, you've got your boat's draft, your speed, you've got lots of bridges, you've got the Gulf Stream current running north, you know, in the Atlantic. You've got everybody's own individual schedules. You've got seasonal changes. There's just so many factors. But, I mean, for us, we did the whole ICW from the Chesapeake. I think it starts in Norfolk and goes all the way down to Miami. We did the whole thing just because it kind of became this this accomplishment we were shooting for. We wanted to do the whole ICW from beginning to end, so that's why we did the ICW rather than the Atlantic. But I don't know, that's really all I can... How early do you wake up on your sailboat?
Maybe about 8.
8? Pretty much just as soon as the sun comes up, right? Yeah. Let's extend this one. What time does Mommy wake up on the sailboat?
Probably 9.
Yeah, she sleeps in a little more, doesn't she? Okay. As a slumlord, I'm curious as to why you are selling your home rather than renting. There's a few different reasons for that. You know, for one, we only own the one house. So as far as rentals go, it's not diversified at all. You know, if there's problems with that house, then effectively 100% of your rental properties have problems. And they inevitably do have problems you got to work through. Another reason is, since it was a primary residence, we paid more for it, and because of that, the difference between our mortgage payment and the rental income was not enough to justify the risk of having it as a rental. So in other words, the juice wasn't worth the squeeze. And then finally, you know, I just didn't want the hassle of worrying about it anymore. The house was something that was very much on our mind, or on my mind, during this last trip out. And, you know, I wanted to free up that mental space so I could think about, you know, the sailing trip and, you know, not worrying about the house. So there you have it. Boy, this is a long one. It's basically just a lot of bragging about us and our abilities and where we learned all this stuff. And then the main question is, are there any books that you could recommend for a fellow dreamer wanting to make a similar journey? Books. Oh gosh. I don't know. One of the books that really come to mind for me is called Voyaging on a Small Income. That's by Annie Hill. I really liked that particular book. One other one that's like a really good reference book for, like, you know, boat systems and things like that. It's one by a guy named Nigel Caldler, I believe. He's got a bunch of good reference books. I think that's about all I can say to that, unfortunately. I didn't do a ton of reading. It was just, as far as learning how to sail, it was just kind of getting out there and, you know, taking a bunch of baby steps and just kind of learning as we go. So I hope that helps a little bit. Ben, do you plan to add an autopilot in the future? Yes, I actually have an autopilot just in the house there that we're going to be installing on this next trip down to the boat. I'm not going to go into too much detail about that because I'm going to be going into plenty of detail during the installation, so stand by for that. And also, did you find it difficult or boring to hand steer for long periods of time on your longer passages? Yep. Yeah, it was both boring and fatiguing. I mean, it was a tiring you know, thing to do for hours and hours on end. Me and Tammy would take, I think, 1 hour shifts just steering, but on those, you know, 10, 11, 12-hour days, yeah, it was you know, it was not fun. So it can be done, though. Let me certainly say that there's plenty of people that, you know, don't have autopilots at all. So it can certainly be done, but I think an autopilot is going to be better. Let's see, this one is referring to the replacement water tank lid that I did. Let's see, why not just use plastic or fiberglass to cover your water tank? Because this may have saved you a lot of time. I don't think varnish is sufficient as a waterproof boundary. I didn't use varnish as a waterproof boundary. It's all epoxy and fiberglass. I think you should have used food grade epoxy. I did. Just trying to save you a do-over on the lid. Thanks. Let's see, why are some channels so much more popular? You've been out there, you've done a whole year of cruising, refit stuff, beautiful people with you. Yet, for example, basically some channels that have done less have more, you know, subscribers and that kind of thing. I'm not real sure why that is. But just to clarify, I don't really sweat it. You know, I mean, we're just kind of doing our own thing at our own pace, and I don't really worry too much about you know, the subscribers and, you know, how fast we're growing, that kind of thing. We're just making videos, having fun, uploading them, and, you know, I feel like for the subscribers and people that we have that watch our videos, we have a really good, you know, cool fan base. We don't have a bunch of, you know, spammers and people leaving a bunch of garbage comments and that kind of thing. If you notice our thumbs up ratio, it's way up there. I mean, we get far less than a 1% dislike ratio, so that's good, but I don't know. Ben, I need to pick your brain a tad on some of your navigation equipment. What do you use? What would you upgrade? What do we use and what? Well, this iPad right here is basically, as far as navigation goes, I mean, this is what we're using. We use Navionics on this iPad. Alongside this iPad, we have a Garmin I think it's called a 740S chart plotter, and that's running the Garmin charts. And what's nice about that is you've got, you know, Navionics over here, and you've got the Garmin stuff over here, and you can kind of, you know, compare the two. Sometimes there are, you know, differences between the two, and if you're basically, if what you're seeing out there with your own eyes is not, you know, making sense, sometimes, you know, you can kind of compare the two different chart plotter softwares and you can get your answer that way. So it's handy having two different plotters running. You know, like I said, we're going to be installing an autopilot. That's not really nav equipment. We do have a radar, but I bet we haven't used that radar more than 10 minutes total. For some people in some cruising grounds, like if you're cruising in the Gulf where there's all those oil rigs, you know, radar could be really handy. Or if you're going to be cruising up north, or in just generally in areas where there's a lot of fog, you know, radar can be handy. But for, you know, Bahamas, I don't think radar is much of a benefit at all. Also, we do not have AIS, and we probably won't have it for this next trip. But when we start doing like trips further south, going into the Caribbean, we're probably going to get AIS. But I think that's really all I can say about navigation stuff. Ben, on the charts, it's showing only a 2 feet depth at low tide in certain spots you anchored. Is there a discrepancy? I think probably what the problem is, a lot of the charts are in meters, so when it says 2, it's not referring to feet, it's actually referring to meters, which would mean there's about 6 feet of water there. I think that's probably what the confusion is here. But in addition to that, I can also say that specifically the Explorer charts that we used in the Bahamas, those actually seem a tad pessimistic, I guess you could say. Usually there's a little more water there than what it says on the charts, is what we've found. So, Where did you get the plans for your sailing dinghy? We got them from, you basically have to order them online. They come from a guy named Danny Green who lives in Bermuda. I'll put his email address right here. So you can get in touch with him via email. I think that's probably the best way to reach out to Danny Green. The dinghy is called a Chameleon dinghy, again designed by Danny Green. The plans were, I think, $30, and just reach out to him by email, send him a $30 PayPal, and then he will mail you a set of plans. Why did you choose that model? You know, I don't remember specifically. The biggest thing was we were looking for a dinghy that nests, meaning that, you know, one half of the boat goes inside the other half of the boat for storage and transport. I also did like the pram bow of the dinghy, which I might as well just show you. The pram bow is this kind of squared off bow right here. I liked that because it kind of gives you more storage space than a pointed stem bow does. But I don't know. I just I did some reading online, and there were a lot of you know, records of people that have used this dinghy, even took it all the way around the world with them. So it just seemed like it kind of had a good reputation. It was easy for a beginner to build, you know, like me. The cost of building it was low compared to some other dinghies, so it was just really those factors. But it's about to be put to through the real test. You know, this is going to be the first trip we're taking this dinghy out, and man, I hope it goes okay. I'm actually nervous about it because our previous dinghy was an inflatable and this one's a rigid dinghy. It's just a major, major change to what is probably the most critical piece of gear in a cruising sailor's, you know, arsenal. So we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think that answered your question. Oh, I'm sorry. One little add-on. Which alternative models did you consider? I think there were two. One was called a nutshell pram. I don't remember who the maker of that one is, but that was a possibility. That is a one-piece dinghy, and but it was only 8 feet long, so you know, we didn't end up going with that one. And the other one was a boat called, I think, a PT-10. And again, I'm sorry I don't remember the maker of that one, but it was a nesting dinghy, very similar to this one in length and beam and everything, but it was a stem bow. You know, the bow comes up to a point, and I preferred this pram bow. Okay, that's enough about the dinghy. I hope that helps. Ben, great job on the videos. Can you list music credits? Yep. I'm just kidding. I intend to do that a lot. There's so many things to remember. You know, you get completely through editing this video and you've put like, you know, 10 or 15 or 20 hours into it, or who knows. And then, you know, I don't know. It's just one of those things I often forget about doing, but I'll try to do better at that. Do you have a single sister who wants to cruise?
I have 2 sisters and they're not single, I'm sorry. But I don't think they want to cruise either.
I think you should provide their phone numbers anyways.
I don't think they'd appreciate that very much.
Okay. Ben, on your little boat, you've done a great job of forward planning. Have you considered any type of non-slip or non-skid surface for the interiors? Yep. I actually did put some non-skid inside this boat. This is some stuff called soft sand. It's this it's basically these super duper tiny rubber pellets, and you mix it with paint and put it in there. It's just supposed to be kind of easier on your feet. So yeah, I did put some non-skid in the dinghy. What are the cameras you use to record the videos with? This one is a Canon G7X Mark II. This is actually my second camera that I've had like this. I actually completely ruined the first one in that video series I made of building this dinghy here. It just got completely full of dust and I wrecked it. So Canon G7X Mark II. We also used in our last season out a GoPro Hero 3 Silver. And that one's actually getting pretty beat up too. So we just recently purchased a GoPro Hero 7 Black. And that's like the top of the end GoPro. You haven't seen any footage from that one yet, but there will be footage coming up. How difficult would it be to single-hand your boat through the Bahamas and ICW? I've never, completely single-handed our boat before. I guess I technically have a little bit, just because Tamby's gotten kind of queasy and seasick, and I've had to, manage it by myself. But I've never done it really intentionally. The Bahamas, I think, would actually be pretty easy. You're just, there's not a lot of things to hit out there, if you can avoid, like, reefs and boats and islands. But, the ICW, I think, is where it would be trickier, just because you have crab bots and boats and current and docks and bridges and barges, and, just seems like there's a lot more things a lot more ways for things to go wrong in the ICW. Can it be done? Absolutely. People do it every day. Our boat would actually be pretty easy. It's a smaller boat. All the lines are run back to the cockpit, that kind of thing. But I guess that just kind of comes down to the individual and how comfortable they are with it and how much practice they've had with it. Do you find the facilities to be good, and do you feel that it's safe at Reynolds Marina? Yeah, I mean, I like Reynolds Marina. It's kind of a drive for us. It's 7 hours from Toccoa, Georgia to Reynolds Marina in Green Cove Springs, Florida. There are basically 2 marina options in that area. There is Reynolds Yacht Park, the one that we're at, and there is the Green Cove Springs, marina. Green Cove Springs is cheaper. It's kind of a little bit rougher. But the benefit is that you can do all of your own work at the Green Cove Springs Marina Yard. At Reynolds, it's kind of a step up in quality. It feels more secure. It's a bit nicer. The facility is just nicer. The cost is a little bit higher. But one of the biggest differences is that you cannot do all of your own work. You can do most of your own work, but they do not want you working on your hull. They don't want you doing any sanding or painting or grinding or, putting in through hulls or anything like that. You have to actually hire them to do that kind of work for you, which we did hire them to recently do a bottom job on the sand flea, and you know, the cost of you know, all the sanding and the paint and all that stuff, I think it was about $1,000 for, and that includes, I think, 2 gallons of paint, which I totally don't mind paying for that particular job, because I just despise you know, all the sanding and stuff on the bottom. Yeah, anyways, I hope that helps. Ben, you are both the director and the editor? Exclamation point, question mark. Yep. What model Engel fridge did you buy and from where? We have the I don't remember the part number, but it is the 45 quart model. It can be either a fridge or a refrigerator, but not both. You set the temperature dial, and you can either make it cold or freezing, and that's what ours is. 45 quart model. Tanby, what good is a domain name when you don't take care of it? Under the gear page, you don't have anything. Sorry, sailor bags. Basically, I think they're referring to the
website.
the blog,
sad.
Yeah.
I'm working on it. I'm sorry. My computer broke before we went to the Bahamas, and I didn't really have any gear that
We have lots of gear now.
I had used yet that
Yeah.
I could put on the page, so I'm working on it right now.
Yeah, we got lots of new gear and stuff, so Tammy's going to be working on getting that up to date. Isn't that right?
I hadn't used any of our gear that we had bought yet, so I couldn't put an honest opinion about our gear on the page.
I think this one was largely meant in jest.
Yeah.
So that's all of them for you, Tammy. Anything you want to say in closing? Just anything at all. Anything about me, Molly, the new dinghy, the boat, the new trip, where we're going, just anything. Give them something.
Okay. I'm really excited about next season. We've been home for a long time, and I'm ready to get back on the water. I miss it a lot.
Would you say we've been here too long?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. All right. Good job, Tammy.
Thank you.
Good job with the questions. Okay. Is there anything you want to say to wrap this up, though?
I'll be glad to be back on the sandy beaches and be able to swim with Daddy.
Yeah, you looking forward to that?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna try out your new spear.
Mm-hmm.
Do you promise that you're not gonna spearfish Daddy? Okay, guys, that does conclude the Q&A video. Leave a like for us if you haven't already. Consider subscribing to our channel, and stick around. The adventure is just about to kick off, so we're excited. See you out there.